with your hosts, Spooky and Raven. Tonight we are talking about curses. Are they real? Do we believe in them? My name is Spooky, and I'd like to introduce your other host, Raven.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing good. Hot today.
But it was a great day. Still is a great day.
Yep, it sure is. It could be worse. It could be winter.
Well, some people like the winter, so for them, they can go to Alaska.
Well, I'm already complaining about the heat, so.
And it's just started.
And it just started. Exactly. Pretty soon, school's out now, so pretty soon I'm going to be complaining about the kids. Oh well, I'm never happy.
Okay. So tonight, we're going to be talking about curses, and I'm not saying that I believe in them, really, but I know other people do, and they've been talking about curses, throughout history, and,
I don't know if I believe in them either.
Right. And I know some people, say that curses are like superstitious poppycock, but I mean, the fact is that the stories of curses have been, I don't know, since the biblical times, if not more, you know. It just kind of shows you the strong popular belief that people believe in the power that they have.
Well, there are several places in the Bible where it mentions being cursed.
Right?
I can't come up with one right now, but I remember reading it.
Well, there's the curse of the fig tree, when
Yeah.
that's in
Yep.
the Gospel of Mark or Matthew, remember? When Jesus was walking out of the city and he was hungry and he noticed that fig tree down the road and it was all, full of leaves and everything. And then when he got up there, he inspected it and he didn't find a single fig, so he kind of cursed it, saying, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And after that, it kind of...
And no one ever did.
Well, not from that tree because it withered up, supposedly.
Right.
And it wasn't like he was being vindictive and childish, but it was more of like... It was symbolic, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was representing the nation
yeah.
of Israel and the people's faith, basically,
Right.
back then.
And that particular fig tree never produced another fig after that.
Right, but that's a curse that you could come up from back to in biblical times. What I'm saying, you know what I mean? Because you said you couldn't think of one offhand. That's one right there. You know what I mean? So that's I'm sure they probably go way further back.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But their curses are so popular, from sports to politics to musician stuff, everything. I mean, they have the curse of the Bambino, with the Boston Red Sox.
Oh yeah, that was
Babe
the
Ruth.
run of bad luck that the Boston Red Sox had
Right.
after they traded Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees in 1920.
Yeah, that's one that a lot of people talk about, and the 27 Club. That's like all those famous people that died at the age of 27.
I don't know if that's really a curse or not, though, Raven.
I don't believe. I didn't say it was a curse. That's what people say. You know
Well,
what I mean?
yeah, some people call it a curse. That's like Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix. I think Jim Morrison was in that, where they all died at the age of 27.
I just think it's poor personal life choices.
I thought that's what it was too. It's just poor personal life choices. I mean, besides that, didn't all of those people overdose?
Mass majority, yeah. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
think of every name, but and then yeah. But I mean, I don't really believe that it's cursed, but there's people out there who do believe that, because there's still people who are dying off that are famous musicians at the age of 27, but they're always dying of overdoses. But so I guess in a way that could be some kind of...
Or car crashes or something. I don't really think that's a curse, personally.
Well, I'm just saying that these are popular
Right.
beliefs that people are saying that they have.
Right.
Well, yeah, like also someone mentioned that Kurt Cobain, evil pinhead, did. And that was a suicide thing, but still, he was 27. Then,
Right.
And then you
Come
got...
to think of it, he was 27, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was a sketchy incident too. But then you have the Kennedy curse that people always talk about.
Yeah, some of them died young.
A bunch of them. A bunch of them died young. Yeah.
Yeah, two of them were assassinated. One of them had a wreck that where Mary Kapotny, I think was her name. died, and it more or less ruined any chances of him, Ted Kennedy, of running for president.
Well, his brother and
JFK
him.
Jr. died.
Yeah, and his
You know,
brother. Yeah.
I think that was kind of his own fault, though.
Well, I'm not. I'm just talking about. That's for another show. The whole JFK assassination part 2 stuff. But had his son, right, was in that crazy
Right.
plane crash. Remember? I mean,
Yeah, that's what I say. I think that was more or less his fault. That was poor judgment on his fault. He was flying
oh, I
close
thought
to
you were
night.
talking about the president, dude.
Oh, no, 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 no. That wasn't his fault. But
It's like, wait a
John F.
minute.
Kennedy Jr., I mean, he flew that plane over water at night, and he was not instrument rated.
Yeah.
So I kind of think that was his own fault. And not only did he kill himself, he took two people with him.
Well, throughout their whole family history, if you kind of read about it, there's tons of them that died really young.
Hmm.
It's strange for one family. So that's
Oh,
kind of
I
like why
know.
they call it a curse. That's why people say that.
Right.
And have talked about it for a long time.
Yeah. And then there's the Superman curse
Yeah,
with
yeah, totally. Christopher Reeves and George Reeves.
right, George Reeves committed suicide.
Or
Christopher
excuse me,
Reeves,
Christopher Reeve. Not no S at the
yeah.
end of his name. Close
Uh
that last names though, but yeah.
George Reeves committed suicide. He was, as far as I know, the first Superman. Some people may argue that. I think there actually was one before him, but I'm not too sure about that. Christopher Reeve was thrown off that horse and paralyzed from the neck down, wasn't it? Or the chest down, something like that. Both of them.
Well, they say how that curse started. I just kind of read this. I'm not 100% sure, but they were saying that the two people that were writing up the comic books or whatever kind of got ripped off when they picked it up for the movies and TV series and stuff, and they kind of
Yeah.
cursed it. But it seems like anybody who had anything to do with the Superman stories, not everybody, but a majority of them had issues, from
Yeah,
the
but George.
comics to even JFK was going to some kind of safety thing he was going to do that had to do with Superman stuff,
Yeah.
and but it wasn't just George Reeves and Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, but George Reeves, he played Superman for all that time, and he couldn't really get other parts. He had a hard time getting other parts because everybody associated him with Superman. As far as they were concerned, he was Superman, and he really did have a hard time getting more serious parts.
Well, you get typecast when it comes to movies
That's
and
it.
TV shows,
Thank you. I
but
couldn't think of the word.
you have to be careful. But there's some people who, has nothing to do with curses, but there are people who try to go out and do almost every single role that they can so they don't get typecast. But if you end up
Right.
doing something that's really awesome, you're kind of like, you know, I don't, I wasn't, you know how we don't like to talk about TV shows or just certain celebrities just because we don't want to, give celebrities
Yeah.
shout outs. We
But
give,
that was a role though that a lot of actors refused.
yeah, I think even somebody was saying this that Paul Walker was offered the chance for the new Superman stuff, but he kind of passed up because I guess a lot of actors refuse to do that role because they just believe in that curse. You know what I mean?
Right. But look what happened to Paul Walker.
Yeah. Well, that was crazy.
Yeah, very.
But they talked about it had to do with not just the movies, the TV shows, and the comic books. Anybody who was kind of involved with it ended up having a lot of issues, it seemed. But then there's there's other movies too that have curses. They have The Omen, remember?
Mhm.
The Exorcist. There's another one. And what was the other one? You know what I'm talking about? There was The Exorcist, The Omen, and
Poltergeist.
yeah, the Poltergeist. Those ones I know are some of the top ones that had.
Well, wasn't the Omen movie surrounded by death and suicide?
Yeah, there were yeah there was and they had a lot of set issues too, but
Right. And like The Exorcist, they had a lot of production problems.
hmm well that was an
And
Exorcist for sure. They had it seemed like it was doomed from the very start kind of.
Well, when you start doing those kind of movies, evil's going to move in. I don't know if that would be a curse either. I think that was more or less evil coming in. But that's just my opinion. And then you have
Well, yeah, the
supposedly,
Crow. There's the Crow.
yeah,
Remember how Brandon Lee died? It was almost similar to the movie. He died before his wedding as well.
right. And what was that little girl's name? Heather.
Oh, Heather. I can't remember her last name, but yeah,
I
she was
can't
in the
remember her last name.
Poltergeist.
She
Yeah.
was, I mean, she was just a child and she died. She was in Poltergeist.
They said something, and I'm not trying to be grotesque, and we're just kind of giving off a couple popular curses before we go into the major ones we're talking about, but they said something about they even used real human skin on some of the set. And I think that may have caused
Ew,
the start of
gross.
this curse. I'm just stating what some people were saying. I mean, but it is odd because it seems like all the Poltergeist movies were cursed.
And then, well, some people are cursed too, like the Romanov family in, what was it, Russia?
Russia, yeah.
Where Rasputin,
Cursed them.
who
Yeah.
happened to be an evil monk,
Right.
cursed them to be dead in a year, and the entire family was executed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of them were. And then you had Tecumseh.
Heather O'Rourke. Or
Heather O'Rourke. There you go. That was her name, Heather O'Rourke.
Thank you, Penny.
From the Poltergeist.
Yes. I can't think of her last name.
Tecumseh.
Mm-hmm.
He placed a curse that every 20 years an American president would die.
Which a few of them did because there was Lincoln and
Yeah.
Who else? Did we lose you there, Spooky, or did you come?
No, I'm still there. I had a coughing fit.
Oh, sorry.
You know what? I'm drawing a blank, and I know about this curse. I know about this curse, and I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of the other president that died, but like every 20 years, one's supposed to die.
Mm-hmm. I know a few that I wish were gone, but out of the White House anyway.
Well, I don't wish them dead. I just wish them gone.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Blarney Stone. I mean, that's a really one that's always talked about. If you kiss it, the Blarney Stone in Ireland, you have good luck, and if you take something from there, remove part of the stone, or you're cursed and you have bad luck in your whole life. That's one. And then
What would you take from there?
Well, I
You
wouldn't.
can't take the Blarney Stone. It's big. Have you ever seen that thing?
No, well, maybe they were kind of chipping away at it, but I wouldn't kiss it either. You know how many people put their mouths
I
on
know.
it, and how much
The germs on that thing. Not to
It's
mention the
exposed
fact that you got to
outside.
lay on your back, you got to bend down, and they got to hold you so you don't
Upside down.
slide down this hole. You got to be upside down to kiss the darn thing.
If they're gonna hold you
Forget
upside
it.
and upside down and do all that, they might as well have a cake stand there too, since you're already that way.
Exactly, because you're in a good position for a cake party.
No, a cake stand. You might as well get it little
No,
lit if you're
whatever.
gonna kiss that stone.
I still go with the cake.
I would never.
But one of the more famous curses, well, there are several, but one of the, not the most famous, but one of the more famous curses is King Tut's tomb. Now, the idea that mummies have magical power can appeal to the imagination of anybody. And the first ghost story about a mummy's curse was published in 1699. A lot more stories followed. But the longest lasting episode of a cursed mummy is King Tut. By far, King Tut.
Talked about.
Talked about.
Yeah, I mean, there's no fact. I mean, it's like a
And
grapevine.
this curse has been going on since 1923. It's just the longest running episode of a curse, of a cursed mummy. The discovery and the opening of King Tutankhamun's tomb.
Mm-hmm.
Lord, oh, I can't think of that guy's name. Carnarvon. He funded the search for King Tut's tomb. He was also an archaeologist. And another archaeologist, Howard Carter, entered the tombs, the king's burial chamber, in February of 1923. Now, one of the things about this was a warning over the tomb that said anyone who entered would die a horrible death. And come to find out, that warning never existed.
Well, yeah, I think, me personally, I think Howard Carter created all this buzz just to keep back the media so that they would kind of everybody would kind of stay out of their way while they were, exploring and doing what they needed to do in here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, sometime on or about, I think it was March 6th, Lord Carnarvon, he was bitten on the cheek by a mosquito.
Yeah,
and
but he had
got
already,
real sick.
But he, come on, he was already old, and then when you
exactly.
and you open up these tombs and stuff, they're gonna have some things in there that had been trapped. You know what I mean?
Well, that's true. This man was already sick when he went on this expedition.
Right. I mean, but he lived a good while. All these people lived a good long while. They didn't just die. Everybody that was there for the opening of these certain parts of the tomb, they all lived a good, 15, 20 years after, right?
Well, this particular guy, the Lord, I'm not even going to try on his last name again.
That's okay.
But, okay, when he was bitten, and this was reported in the media, a lot of people jumped to the conclusion that King Tut's tomb was cursed. This Lord's condition did get worse. The bite became infected. He contracted pneumonia, and he died in April that same year. So, because of all of this, all of a sudden, the legend of the curse, and up until then, it was just a legend.
Right. Then it
became fact.
But people started, the media and everything started to sensationalize, blow it up.
There were 5 major rumors connected with this curse.
Mm-hmm.
One was Carter had a pet canary, and it was eaten by a cobra.
Yeah.
Okay? When in fact, Carter had given the pet canary to a friend to take care of for him.
And then the friend didn't want to take care of it anymore, so he I'm just kidding.
And then another one was that at the moment Lord Carnarvon died,
right,
in a Cairo hospital, the lights across Cairo went out for 5 minutes. But at that time, even though the lights did go out, the lights in Cairo were notorious for going out even today, because their electric power just sucks. It just, they don't have very good electric over there. Another rumor was Lord Carnarvon's dog back in England howled and dropped dead at exactly 2 a.m., the time that the Lord died. That rumor really can't be verified and is suspicious because England and Egypt are in different time zones.
Yeah, but you know what? These stories are passed word of mouth, and people who write stuff up, every writer adds a little flavor and color to get their paper, picked or sold and stuff. And I don't think, maybe Carter didn't invent the idea of the curse, but I think he definitely ran with it just to keep, robbers and thieves and the press back, but they could still...
Carter lived a long time, and like I said, over the door of the tomb was supposed to have been an inscription that read, "Death shall come on swift wings to him that toucheth the tomb of the Pharaoh."
Yeah, but I think he was the one who made that up and said that. I don't think it actually was there.
When the Lord was bitten by the mosquito, all of a sudden, like I said, this curse became fact, and up until this point it was legend, but in fact, that simply isn't true because no warning existed. And most of the and one of the more famous rumor with that was most of the people present that went into the tomb died untimely deaths, and the newspapers at that time had a field day with the curse, because whenever anyone related to the Lord or the discovery of the tomb died, the death was taken as proof of the curse. But
well, Big Boy has a point, kind of like what I was saying. You know, after you open up sealed tombs and crypts and all that stuff, you know,
well, there's
with that
bacteria and
bacteria and
stuff in
everything
there,
that's gonna.
exactly.
That's what I was kind of saying before.
One of the things they tell you, and I used to watch this show on the Discovery Channel about this archaeologist and this professor in Egypt. He was going to take a reporter in with him, and one of the things he told that reporter was, "Do not shave before we go in here because of the bacteria." Because when a man shaves, you know, sometimes they cut themselves, you know, or their face is a little raw, or whatever. It gives the bacteria an opportunity to enter their skin. But 26 people at the opening of the burial chamber died within the next 10 years. 22 present at the opening of King Tut's sarcophagus.
Right.
Two of them died within 10 years. And, excuse me, 10 people who watched the unwrapping of the mummy, none of them died within the 10-year span. And many of the people who had the most contact with King Tut's mummy lived long and productive lives. Lord Carnarvon was in poor health anyway when they went on the expedition and when he arrived in Egypt. This man was sick to begin with. He had no business on this expedition. I just don't think really. And the archaeologist Carter,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember right, he lived to his 80s.
Yep, a bunch of them lived. Who were there and everything else lived for a long time. So, I think a lot of it was hype.
It was.
Just, you know, one to get, you know, funds and to get what they needed and to keep the press back a little bit.
And what about the so-called tour when they had the King Tut display on wheels, so to speak, where it was going from city to city?
Right.
All of the people who went in and viewed this mummy and all the artifacts and everything, none of them died. They all lived nice, healthy lives, as far as I know.
Maybe it just selects certain people. Maybe it, you know what? Maybe those who really believed in that curse caused it to affect them on their own because of, you know.
Like the power of suggestion?
Exactly. You know, maybe that's what curses are. Maybe that's what curses are. People are putting the energy out on it and then they're creating their own sicknesses and fears because they believed in this curse, you know. So maybe some people weren't affected because they didn't believe in it, or, you know, and other ones may have.
Well, somebody said once, and I can't remember who the first person was that said it, but a curse only has power if you believe in it.
Right.
But I do believe in the power of suggestion.
It doesn't always work, because I've always suggested you to bake some goods, but that doesn't ever happen, so.
Well, you haven't cursed me yet.
I don't curse anybody, but I would never do that.
But the power of suggestion, well, you always tried guilt, and guilt don't work on me. It just don't work on me, so you're going to have to try another tactic.
That's okay. But me personally, I didn't really believe in the King Tut's curse. I think that a lot of it was hyped up. You know, people may have suffered because of
I agree with that.
Bacteria and, you know, the bugs and stuff that they got over there, and you get bitten, and the water and.
Well, that's true, you know, and it's like Big Boy said a while ago, you know, that tomb was closed up for 3,000 plus years. Okay? You had a dead body in there. There's going to be bacteria. Not to mention, you know, a lot of these kings, when they were buried or placed in their tombs, they had articles placed with them, you know, food. Some of them, you know, servants were placed in there with them.
The poor, hopefully
Pets,
not put alive, but yeah.
You know, there is all
the
kinds
things that they wanted
of
with
opportunity.
Them. Yeah, the things that they wanted with them in their afterlife.
Right, and there were all kinds of opportunities for bacteria to grow.
But that's not the only, you know,
And bacteria is also airborne. I mean, you open up that tomb and you get a rush of air in your face, you're also getting a bunch of bacteria in your face.
Right. But that's not the only tomb that they said was cursed. It started, all of a sudden, all of them were cursed, But
Yeah.
I don't think it really. If you're a thief, they don't care. They're still gonna go in there. You know what I mean?
I think that, like I said, it was a legend. I think a lot of that may have been by word of mouth to keep thieves out of there, because there were a lot of grave robbers.
Well, that was part of it. That was part of it, and the other
Yeah.
part was to keep the media back just enough.
Well, some of those tombs that they had found in the Valley of the Kings over there, when they had gotten in there, they had discovered that grave robbers had been in there, that had taken everything that was, that was valuable.
Right.
So, and in some cases, even took the mummies. And there's been cases of mummies showing up in places, like on displays and in museums and whatever, that were stolen from those tombs and sold. So I think maybe that might have been part of the legend of the curse, was to keep grave robbers out of there.
I'm in agreement with you. But I think a lot of, like you said, when you read about it, a lot of the people lived a good 20 some years after, so.
Right.
It's hard to say that. I'd believe it if everybody started dropping off dead right there,
Right.
Pa-pow, open the door. 5 people fall down here. Then I'd be like, okay, I'm done with this job. I'm moving. You know what I mean? But
well, there was one rumor that when Carter opened up King Tut's tomb, a giant block of stone fell on him and crushed him. That just was not true. Because, like I said, the man lived to be, I believe, in his late 70s, early 80s, and died of natural causes.
And you think, they'd have all these museums where they have all these displays and stuff. You think people would be dropping off there, or the people who run it and work in the museum, you know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly. But, if you really want to get technical, you can look at archaeologists as grave robbers.
Well, they kind of are.
I mean, well, they kind of are. Like, look at Indiana Jones. Every movie I ever saw, he was accused of being a grave robber.
Well, but they are. They're cracking open someone's grave, tomb, and resting place, and then they're like,
I know.
We're going to steal this stuff, and we're going to put it on display
and show everybody, and oh, look, there's a body. Let's just unwrap it and put it on display too. You know what? When you bury someone, you expect them to be buried forever. You don't expect somebody to come in there, open up their tombs, and take them and any valuables left in there. It just...
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, no, but... You see, this is what I would think. Instead of a curse, you'd think that if somebody, these spirits had, were attached to this stuff, then they'd go after those people. If that to me, I'd probably be more possible,
I wonder if they ever entered any of these tombs and they were haunted. Wouldn't you think that, the spirit of that person would get a little bit ticked off because somebody just opened up their grave?
Or their slaves, or the people who adored and protected them,
Right.
They have a whole bunch of...
But I've never really heard any stories where any of these tombs were haunted, and either that or nobody's telling it.
Well, I guess that's something you'll have to Google, because I haven't really researched or looked that up.
That would be something interesting to research.
But I'm sure somebody will come up with it and be like, oh, yeah, I came up with this idea. I knew about it all the time. Because that's how people are. They'll be like, because I would write a story about it. Wouldn't you?
I would.
I bet you somebody has, actually. Because there's always, so many different things out there that everybody knows. And I love the internet, because you get to learn all these different things. And you get to meet all these different people that have all this different information. And you get to learn all these things. But I bet you that's out there. I wouldn't be.
It's got to be out there somewhere.
Yeah.
We just got to find it. One of the more famous curses, and this one has been around since the 50s, is the curse of James Dean's car.
Little bat.
It was a rare silver Porsche Spider.
Right. The little bastard.
And at the time, only 90 of them were made. This was in 1955, and he nicknamed it the Little Bastard.
Right, 130.
130 had the number 130 on it. Um, Everyone that ever came around this car, Elizabeth Taylor, Alec Guinness, these were major movie stars, and he took the car to show to these people, and they said that this car just gave off an enormous power of impending doom. They didn't, everybody that he showed this car to did not want to be around it because
Well, they
of some.
warned him. They said, you know,
Yeah.
that car's going to be the death of you. And
Elizabeth Taylor tried to talk him into getting rid of the car, and he wouldn't do it.
Right.
And she told him, you know, she just felt impending doom from the car, and she was afraid it was going to kill him, which it did end up doing.
Yeah. Well, but he liked racing too. But I mean, some people he might have taken with it. But he, you know what? He kind of had spoke about, you know, how do I say that? You know, he kind of was into things that were kind of pointing him into that direction that he was going to die.
Well, he was on
soon.
his way to race the car.
Well,
him
no,
and his
I know
mechanic.
That. Well, and a bunch of other people were. They met up at, you know, along the way at a few cafes and whatnot, and him and his mechanic took turns driving. It wasn't just him driving. See, personally, I don't think, and other people, because there's eyewitnesses that said that he wasn't driving. It was actually the mechanic that was driving. There was people that were eyewitnesses at the accident, and but right before they saw it happen, that they knew the colors of what each person was wearing when he was coming up and the accident happened, and they say that it was the mechanic that was driving, not James Dean.
Well, didn't somebody say that James Dean was still alive?
He was. I'm not trying to be. Well, I'm like love James Dean because I've liked him since I was like really young and stuff. Not just because he's James Dean, everybody's into him or whatever, but it was because of his story, his background, the way he grew up, and the things that he'd gone through. And he still said, "Okay, this is what I'm gonna do." And no matter how much hardship that he went through, he still achieved a lot for his young life. But he was still alive at the car wreck. He was on the ground up against the barbed wire or whatever, and he was asking about his friend, but he had, you know, not to be graphic, but he had bit his tongue off or whatever, but he had died on the way to the hospital.
Yeah, I think his mechanic was killed in the wreck. The wreck happened September 30th, 1955. I had to stop and think about that.
That's okay. There's a lot in your mind.
But after the accident, there was also a rumor circulated that James Dean survived but went into hiding because he was horribly disfigured.
Yeah. Well, I doubt that. He doesn't seem to be. He wasn't really.
You know what? Rumors follow celebrities. Right. I don't care what celebrity
like Tupac,
it is.
Yeah.
Rumors follow celebrities. I don't care who the celebrity is. Somewhere along the way, there's a rumor about him.
But it was that Donald Turnspeed or whatever. They were coming. He turned left wide and cut over the medium, and that's why they collided. You know.
I've been down that highway. There's a big old sign there that said, "This is the spot where James Dean died, September 30th, 1955." Big old sign right there on the spot.
He even got a ticket before, you know, like.
Well, if you show a picture of the wreck,
sure,
people will understand why they died in this. This was a horrible wreck, but if you notice, it's a small car. Not too much in the wreck these guys were in is going to survive in that car.
Well, no. I mean, when they clipped him, it got airborne and it totally turned a few times and then slammed right into the posts.
I mean, there is just absolutely nothing left of that car.
And his friend was ejected, and James Dean was kind of smashed up against, I'm not trying to be graphic, but this is what happened, was up against the, you know, the barbed wire and everything. And he was really, I mean, the people that were there didn't even know that was James Dean.
Big Boy just said that car was fixed up, believe it or not, was sold on Pawn Stars.
Yeah, not.
Well, after the wreck, a master car customizer named George Barris bought the car for $2,500. And when the wreck arrived at Barris's garage, the Porsche slipped and fell on one of his mechanics that was unloading it,
Right.
breaking both of that mechanic's legs.
Well,
Barris also had bad feelings, though, about the car, but he bought it anyway. If I had a
well,
bad feeling about something, I'm not buying it,
well.
especially for $2,500, and that because that was a lot of money back then. You know, that wasn't much less than what that car probably cost to begin with.
Right. I think, well, when they were, bringing it there and it did slip off, it did crush that one guy's leg, but also the one building that they had it stored in burned down, but the car didn't get burned at all.
Yeah. One of the buildings that they had the car stored in mysteriously caught on fire.
This was like one of the first places that they stored it in after they just bought it.
Every car,
everything that was in there was
in
torched.
That building was completely destroyed except James Dean's car.
Yeah, the little bastard.
And parts of the car were sold at a race at I think it was Pomona in '56.
Well, no,
Two racers were injured that had parts from the Porsche. What was that guy? Troy McHenry.
And William.
His car went out of control and hit a tree, and McHenry died.
Well, but they were in the exact same race, and they were the only two that.
These two guys were in the same race. William
Extrin.
Thank you. His car flipped over, but he survived.
Right,
but he had real serious injuries, and later on, he said that the car just locked up when he went into a curve. He had the tires from that car. Now, both of these guys were actually in the same wreck. And by the way, Troy McHenry was actually a doctor.
I think they both were. Wasn't both of them doctors?
No, I don't know. I read that McHenry was a doctor. But
Barris, he still had two tires from the 550, which were untouched in Dean's accident. He kept them, though. He sold off all the other parts.
Right. He was selling parts off of that car. And everybody that had a part from that car, something happened to them.
Because because Troy McHenry, I think, didn't he also have I think he had a Lotus. One of them had a Lotus and put one part in it, and the other guy, I think, had what was it called? And I used to know this. It's because of my accident, and my brain can't remember very well afterwards. But those two, I know it was crazy. But everybody who bought something that had to do with the car, or touched the car, or moved the car, or the car was stored somewhere, they had all these issues.
Yeah. A kid one time was trying to steal the Porsche steering wheel, and he slipped and put a huge gash in his arm. Barris sold two of the tires to a guy, and within a week the man was nearly involved in a wreck when both tires blew at the same time.
I'm not to laugh, but I'm just like, come on, this is crazy how much is happening to these people. You know what I mean?
I know. It's amazing, and like I said, I don't really believe in curses, but
this
I do
one
believe there was something involved with this car.
This one I kind of do, because maybe there was a lot of bad energy attached to it because of the deaths, and because of all the hype that people put into it. And when the first thing started to happen, I think everybody's energy that they put into it, believing it was cursed, probably even built onto it,
Barris finally thought that maybe the wreck could be put to good use, so he loaned it to the California Highway Patrol for a touring display to show the importance of automobile safety, which, by the way, is kind of odd because
it was the first exhibit was unsuccessful because that's another one of those buildings caught on fire, didn't it?
That's when the garage housing the car went up in flames and burned to the ground, and all the vehicles in the garage except the Porsche were destroyed. But it's kind of ironic because didn't James Dean do a public service announcement about
2 weeks before? That's right, 2 weeks before. You guys can look this up on YouTube. I'm sure it's all over the place. It's James Dean public safety bit. But yeah, I think it was 2 weeks before that accident. He was on talking about not about
the perils of driving fast.
yeah, and he was saying, well, I don't drive fast anymore on the roads because now I race on the race. Because he did buy that Spider so that he could race. It was specifically for him to race on the racetrack, not
Exactly.
to just to show off or anything. He really wanted to be. He was actually a really good racer. His first race, he came in third without having experiences. He
I
used
know
to race. He used to
bought
race
that.
back in the day when he lived in Indiana and everywhere else when he had his motorcycle and everything. I mean, he just loved speed. He loved living on the edge, and I think mainly he was that way because he had such a bad upbringing. Not bad, but he's lost his family, his mom, and
Yeah.
it really, and he was kind of
He bought
they
that
had a
car
hard life.
he bought that car specifically to race it. Why didn't he haul that on a trailer? Why was he driving it?
Because I think at one point they were, and then they were at this cafe or whatever you call them back then. I wasn't born then, so restaurant, whatever. They took it off, and then they decided to drive the rest of the way because it was a nice, smooth path the way that they were going to be going. You know what I mean? And they took turns driving, and people still say that he was not the one driving the car at the time that they got in the accident. That it was the mechanic. But the fact is, when he was on that safety thing, he messed up at the end and said, be careful how you're driving because the life you may save is mine, when he was supposed to say yours. And oddly enough, 2 weeks later, Donald Turnpike overcompensated his turn, went into oncoming traffic, and he thought he had enough time to turn in away from him, but because they were going 80 some miles per hour, they just collided, and that was the end of it. But there were so many people talking about this car is going to be the death of you before that. Then he has, that odd mess up, which may have not have been a mess up when he did that little interview and everything, and then 2 weeks later he dies.
Right.
There's just so many things that was kind of adding up.
Well, and
leading to. It's almost like he had hints.
Yeah, exactly. Also, while the California Highway Patrol had it, besides the garage burning up, the car was put on an exhibit in Sacramento, and it just fell from its display. Just fell from its
that's
display,
right, and crushed somebody.
and it broke a teenager's hip.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that
This
one.
kid was walking by it, looking at it, and all of a sudden the car just came off its display.
No, to me that kid was cursed. Why? What? All of a sudden it randomly
if that kid
picks that
has
kid.
that kind of luck.
Yeah, he should go to the
Had
casino.
seen this car and it went after that kid. If that kid had that kind of luck, I think I would stay at home.
Well, you have won that bad of luck. You got to have that good of luck. He should have went to the casino right after.
Well, the thing of it is, though, the so-called mishaps surrounding this wreck continued until 1960. George Barkius was hauling the wreck on a flatbed truck. He was killed instantly when the Porsche fell on him after he was thrown from the truck in an accident.
Yeah, he was skidding or something, then he got tossed out of his truck. I totally forgot about that one. And when he got tossed out, the Spider came falling off the trailer and crushed him.
Yeah.
Did they not have good straps back then? No, think about it. Did they not have good straps back then to strap down cars like we do now? Because there was constant. Well, this car, either people did not know how to haul vehicles or whatever, or did not chain things down right,
or
was
a really bad wreck where it just snapped its restraints.
Yeah, that does happen. It don't even have to be that bad of a wreck. It's just you don't even have to have that bad of a wreck, but you have that momentum. It's like so it's gonna happen. But this, out of a lot of the ones that we're talking about, this one I kind of could believe that this is curse, because there's just so much that is constantly happening after his death. And it's almost like the people beforehand had a premonition about him dying in this car, and then he having his own premonition about it, and then everybody touching it or going by it or seeing it, or not everybody, but a lot of people having all these messed up things, and anybody who puts the parts in their car getting this horrific wreck or die,
Exactly. I mean, it just...
And the fact that car did not burn up in that building like with the rest of them, that was odd.
I talked to a guy one time about cars. Matter of fact, he worked on an assembly line, and I asked him about why do some of the cars that come off the assembly line are just lemons. And he told me, he says every once in a while, he says so many cars come off that assembly line that are either cursed or just lemons.
So that kind of makes you wonder. This goes in with our next topic of what we're going to kind of talk about next week. But
Yeah.
you know, who was working on these cars? What kind of energy and person? What were they like? Or certain attachments, or who knows? I mean, this can go into so many different layers of talking about why do curses
Well,
come about or what not.
exactly. Well, the strangest thing of all surrounding this car was in 1960. It was loaned out for a safety exhibit in Miami, Florida. And when the exhibit was over, the
Oh, yep.
wreckage was en route to Los
Yeah,
Angeles
coming from
on a
Florida.
truck, and it just mysteriously disappeared. And to this day, the whereabouts of the Porsche is unknown.
Well, when the truck came, though, when they opened up the trailer, there was stuff inside. It was just the pink slip and the paperwork for the car, but no car. The car was just gone. So it's almost like somebody stole it and stored it somewhere, and whatever happened to that afterwards, or to those people, who
Yeah,
knows?
but how do you steal something like that out of a trailer? I mean, the guy
Oh,
goes to a
but
truck
come on,
stop.
but they stopped somewhere, and maybe he was paid off. They got people who, will do anything for a big amount of money. You got mobsters who, who knows what could. But I just don't think it just. What do you say? Just disappeared into another dimension. But they do talk about that. People see James Dean's car racing down that road still too, a phantom car, as well. But I don't know. I think somebody took it, but they couldn't have sold the parts off because almost every single part on a car tends to have a number
You
on
think
it.
it was a fanatic fan that just wanted a memento?
It could
I
have
don't
been
know
some.
what they would do. I don't know what they would do with that car. They certainly could not piece it out. They certainly could not.
Well, they couldn't because
sell it.
Well, because certain fast cars, Porsches, Lotuses, and all that stuff, they label each one of their parts practically, so they know the parts for that car, and if they ever show up, they could line up and say, okay, this is from this and this is from that. But I just lost my thought.
But I just.
But oh yeah, they also have a rumor up there saying that his family got the car back because they didn't want this driving around and having having this out there about him and talking about this curse. And
Well, it's obvious that someone had to steal it out of that truck.
but it
how
wasn't
in the
his
world-
family because half his family was already
How
dead
in the
anyway.
world did they steal it out of that truck and not be seen? They would have had to have been fast, good, and strong. And wasn't there a padlock on the doors of that trailer?
I don't know. Maybe there wasn't a
course,
padlock, and maybe there wasn't chains to keep the car down. I don't
mean,
know.
it didn't just disappear and go off into another dimension.
Maybe it did. Maybe
it did.
Maybe somebody beamed it up into space. I don't know. But the thing is, I probably
Scotty got it. That's it.
yeah,
Scotty beamed it up.
But the thing is my belief is probably somebody tipped the driver, threatened the driver, or they swapped out his trailer when he wasn't looking. I have no idea. I mean, there's many things that could happen. I just don't believe that a car could just disappear into thin air.
I just don't believe that it just disappeared. I don't. As a matter of fact, I didn't know about the truck that it was on actually arrived into Los Angeles and there was no car in it. I was under the impression that the truck and the car both disappeared.
Nope.
But
the truck came in and had the pink slip and some other paperwork was in there, but there was no car. No car at all.
And why did he have the pink slip when Barris owned this car? It was just on a loan.
I have no idea why maybe the pink slip went with the car. I have no idea. Maybe it was proof to show this is his car. You see?
Well, there you go. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's entirely possible.
Because they could have smashed up any car and said,
right,
yeah, this is it, But
yeah. The pink slip was on display, too, to prove that it was James Dean's car. That makes sense.
There was somebody, though, that did buy...
But somebody has to know where that car is.
But there was one... The dude still had some parts left, and There was somebody, was it in 1980 or somebody was talking about that they had purchased a part that turned out to be a part of James Dean's car, and I think I don't know if it was the tranny or whatnot. And then he said, "I'll let you guys know if I have any tragic accidents or wreck happen from it." And I guess I'm gonna have to Google that guy and see if anything ever did happen to him, or because he was one of the last known people to put a part in, because he was building a spider from scratch from all these different used parts.
Yeah.
So
well, that would be a bad car to get apart from.
He was on some TV show back in the 80s. I remember kind of seeing a little bit of it. And who was that guy's name from Star Trek? Who was Spock? What was that guy's name?
Spock was the one with pointy ears.
No,
Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, he was the dude talking for the show. And I don't remember what that. They had weird mysteries and this and that, and they would talk about odd things and stuff. It was like a TV show in the 80s or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Jonathan Frakes did a show close to that in after 2000. It was called Fact or Fiction.
Some weird stuff like that. But that's somewhere I saw that show, and that's where I remember hearing about this guy who ended up buying a part, and he didn't know it at the time, but when you look up the number parts on it, that's when he found out that he had it, and that's why he was on the show.
But I know that show that you're talking about with Leonard Nimoy, but I cannot think of the name of it. But it was basically.
But they always had weird oddities. They would have like what we're kind of talking about.
That's it. Weird oddities, or
and what other?
Can you believe this? Whatever.
Right. A lot of the things that we're all into, just to listen or check out.
But like I said, somebody knows where that car is. If they're still alive. Right. We don't, you don't, whoever got the car, we don't even know if that person's still alive. I mean, this is back in the 60s. Or they could still be alive and have it in under a tarp back in their barn or something.
It could have it could have got sold, parted off, and sent to Japan.
That could be true too. Maybe that's why they had the tsunami. But
wasn't it Japan that they're really huge on the 50s and the 40s and the 60s and
50s, 60s.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see how somebody could make a big chunk of change from selling that stuff overseas to a lot of people, or maybe somebody just wanted to keep it for themselves. But whoever's holding on to it, I'm sure probably got some bad luck as well. But I don't think it disappeared into nothing. But I do believe it. Out of all the curses and things that I've read or we talk about a little bit tonight, I actually believe that this possibly there may have been a real curse to this, just because of the bad energy and the deaths that happened with it, and it just got worse,
Right. That if I was to believe in curses, this would be the thing that would convince me.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, James Dean had a lot of bad things.
Well, Penny just said the transaxle was bought by a Jack Stiles who restores vintage
transaxle. That's what it is. I don't. Didn't I say that? Maybe I said transmission. Transaxle. Whatever. I'm not a mechanic. Men are. That's why we got them. They're good for all that good stuff, and other stuff. But the thing is he bought it. I think it was in the 80s. So I wonder if anything did happen to him. That's curious.
I don't know.
Well,
I wouldn't.
We'll have to look it up. But, I mean, like I said, there's other things that seemed that James Dean's life was he had a curse hanging over him from day one, from his mother's death all the way throughout his whole life. He was dodging bad stuff, but he kept...
Didn't he only make like 3 movies?
He actually...
Rebel Without a Cause, Giant, East of Eden, or something like that?
He actually did... He did 3 movies, a couple TV appearances, a lot of plays, and his first on-screen thing was a Pepsi commercial, and then from there he just he did a couple short TV bits, and he had some good roles in it, and then that's when he got into those movies. But Rebel Without a Cause, I mean, practically everybody, all the main 3 stars in that movie, died. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
under
Salmenio
40.
was murdered in the parking garage of his apartment. He was stabbed to death. Natalie Wood, wasn't she in there?
Well,
she drowned.
Well, no. Well, see, you have Nick Adams, right? And you have James.
He committed suicide.
Nah, because his all of these deaths are actually mysterious. They haven't really said, okay, this was a suicide, because there's so many things that don't add up. Like the cop found a bunch of important papers at Nick Adams' place, and then he took it home because he thought that these papers should be protected, and him and his wife were both shot up and killed in their driveway after. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Nick Adams, James Dean, Natalie Wood, what was that?
Sal Mineo.
Sal Mineo. They all died in strange, weird ways, and these were all. And there was another female from there that died early too. And they all died under their 40s, you know, and they all died weird ways. Like Natalie Wood, totally mysterious how she died. You know what I mean?
She got drunk and fell off a boat.
Nah, there's more to that, because she was all bruised up really bad.
She hit the boat on the way down to the water.
Also, the people on the ship talked about how her and her husband were constantly getting in fights, and her husband and Christopher Walken also got in a fight. There's a lot more than just her getting drunk and falling off the boat. You know what I mean? There's more to that. They used to get in fist fights and a lot of things. And he was actually, they said that he was present at the time they were fighting, and she fell over, and he told the other guy that was with him, I forgot the guy's name, the captain, he said, just let her sit out there for a while, that'll teach her a lesson. You know what I mean? I don't think he intended for her to die, but they were all drinking, and this guy was scared after everything that was going on. And this is just stuff that they're stating, right? I'm not saying it's factual, okay, because I wasn't there. But, you know, they kind of left her out there, and then she can't swim, you know, and she ended up drowning, you know, but he's the only, because they reopened this case back in 2011 or whatever, 2010, something like that.
Well,
but
I don't know.
But that's a whole different story. But we're talking about all these people die of mysterious things from this movie too. So it's almost like Rebel Without a Cause was kind of, people say that movie was cursed because of all these people had this horrific things happening.
And the thing of it was, that particular movie made a household name out of all of them. Because none of them were really that big of a star at the time.
Well,
I mean,
Natalie Wood.
Nick Adams had a TV series called The Rebel, I think, or that might have been after this movie.
But Natalie Wood, she had some big roles before she was in Rebel Without a Cause. You know, she did one as a kid. I can't remember the name of that movie top hand. You guys can Google it and find out. But
it's that Christmas movie.
Yeah, Miracle on 34th Street. Yeah, that's what it was. You know, and she had a couple other parts, and then you know, the reason why she got a role in Rebel Without a Cause is because she was out partying with her friends and whatever, and then, you know, they got in a wreck, and the cop told her that she was a delinquent, you know, and the guy that came to check on her, see if she was okay in the hospital or whatever, and after she said that, he's like, okay, you get the part, you know, he just knew that it was for her. But
yeah.
I mean, Nick Adams, they don't really think that was a suicide, because there's too many things that wasn't adding up, and the fact that the cop and his wife were murdered right after taking the paperwork. So there was kind of something sketchy going on there too, you know. But just the fact that they all died, all these main characters from that movie under 40, that quickly, you know.
Yeah.
Because he died before the movie.
Well,
James Dean died before the movie came out.
Yeah, Sal Mineo, like I said, he was stabbed to death
after coming back from a play.
In the parking garage of his apartment, and people heard him screaming, and nobody ran to this man's help.
Yeah, I think he got stabbed in the heart, but I think he was coming back from a play, a Broadway play or something that he was doing, or...
Yeah.
I can't remember 100%. I mean, I wasn't alive. If I was like 2 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
this is all stuff I, you know, learned about later on, like I said, because, I mean, I like old classic movies in general.
Oh, I do too.
But this kind of goes with the whole James Dean type thing. There's so many, I mean, you can go and read about his life and see a lot of, you know, it seemed like his whole life was cursed. And then for him to die that way, and then his car, and then these people in this movie that, you know, maybe James Dean was the curse.
It's like you said a while ago, you know, if I was going to believe in curse, this would be the thing that would convince me of it, because there's just so much that has happened around this car that it's just unreal. So much bad luck. You
know that there was a psychic that Natalie Wood's mother, it just came to me, Natalie Wood's mother talked to, and that psychic told Natalie's mother, way before when Natalie was a child, she said that her child was going to be like a famous, you know, rich, famous, and happy and everything, but she was going to die by drowning. And her mother knew about this when Natalie Wood was a child before all of this ever played out. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah.
that's another thing that's kind of bizarre, you know? Not that I believe in all that hoopla, but you know what I mean? There are
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
somebody tunes into the right thing, doesn't mean that, but I just found that kind of odd. Well, we should take a quick intermission so everybody can kind of get up, stretch their legs, get a drink, go to the bathroom, do whatever. But for those of you who are listening over at Ustream, if you want to come in and join in with the chat with everybody else, you can scroll down and find our URL and pop on over, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes or so. And we'll talk about the second half of our topic. Welcome back to Anything But Ordinary. This is Raven, and here's Spooky.
Okay, we left talking about James Dean, and there is just so much more we could probably say on that entire subject.
Right. Sorry about the little hang up. The Ustream producer hung up a second there, was flipping through pictures, and I couldn't get it to stop for a second, but it happens. Crazy nut. Crazy nut.
Another famous curse is the Hope Diamond. This diamond has an extensive history. It as many times as this thing has changed hands, it's amazing. It really is. But according to the legend, a curse fell on the large blue diamond when it was stolen from an idol in India. Bad luck and death for the owner and all who touched it. The diamond was the largest diamond in the world. It was something like 117 carats. And it was perfect quality. It was, like I said, the largest diamond in the world, and it was a rare color, which was blue.
Right.
You didn't see many blue diamonds. And you still don't.
Not that huge and not that great of
Not
quality.
that huge,
I mean,
no.
it did after it was stolen a lot and whatnot and it got returned. There was like a very small crack in it though.
Right.
But other than that, it's almost flawless.
Well, it had been through the centuries. It had been cut at least twice. But in the beginning, this diamond was 117 and 1/16 carat, something, 3/16 carats. But the legend is that centuries ago, a man named Tavernier made a trip to India. He was a jeweler, so he traveled extensively. And he stole the diamond from the forehead of a statue of the Hindu goddess Sita. And for this, he was torn apart by wild dogs on a trip to Russia after he sold the diamond. The truth of the matter is, and this was also the first horrible death that was attributed to the diamond, but the truth of the matter is, in 1642, I think, I'm not very good with dates, a French jeweler by the name of Jean Baptiste Tavernier did visit India. He did buy a 112 carat blue diamond. He didn't steal it, he bought it, and the diamond was believed to have come from the Kolar mine in Golconda, India, which at that time was, from what I read, was a very productive diamond mine.
Mm-hmm.
Tavernier continued to travel, and he arrived back in France 26 years after he bought this large blue diamond. Carrying that thing around for 26 years.
Wouldn't you?
I know, but it just...
I wouldn't dare set it down.
Back then they had robbers and stuff.
Yeah, but where are you going to put it? Would you set it down? Heck no, it'd be totally... Someone
I'd never
come
let
by and
that thing
swipe
out
it.
of my sight.
Well, there you go.
Well, the French king, Louis the 14th, I believe, ordered Tavernier to court, and he bought the blue diamond. He also bought something like 44 large diamonds and over 1,000 smaller diamonds, and he made Tavernier a noble. And Tavernier died at the age of 84 in Russia, but nobody knows how he died. But, I mean, back then he lived to be 84 years old. That alone was quite a feat back then.
Well, yeah. I guess it depends on where you live, what you're eating, and who you're around.
But King Louis the 14th, he recut the diamond because he wanted to enhance its brilliance, because when he bought the diamond was originally cut for size, not brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
So King Louis the 14th, he had it recut down to 67 and an eighth carats. So that's actually quite a bit cut from this diamond. But I didn't find out what happened to the chips that were cut from this diamond. You know.
I guess anybody who's listening, interested, they can always Google it and look it up. I mean, it may be out there, it may not, but that's probably one of those things you're gonna have to search way back through the pages of
Right.
Google, because it's probably not something really typed in a lot. But I mean, they always the curse. They've always been talking about this, written in the newspaper article from it started in 1909. That's something that I was seeing.
The first time there was ever even one mention of a curse on this diamond was in the 20th century. King Louis, after he had it recut, he officially named it the Blue Diamond of the Crown, and he wore it on a long ribbon around his neck. When King Louis died, his son, King Louis XV, who was married to Marie Antoinette, were both beheaded, and the crown jewels were stolen. And most of the crown jewels were recovered except for this blue diamond. But you can't attribute their deaths to the curse of the Hope Diamond, because I mean these two were spending money left and right.
Right.
And their people were going hungry.
Right. They were looking
and
right.
they were extravagant.
Well,
and wasn't it Marie Antoinette, when told that her people were starving, she said, "Let them eat cake"?
I think it was. She was a total whatever, a B word, you know what I'm saying? But if you kind of read about her, she was cuckoo too. But
yeah, she was.
But there was I think it was like an article in 1911 where this random dude wrote like a lengthy list of supposed ill-fortuned cases. And only like a few of them had confirmation of the source, and they were talking about Sam Frankel, this dude, he committed suicide, and you got Prince Ivan, who bought it from the Collet, and he was killed by the Russian revolutionists. And you got
I know this diamond has changed hands so many times, but when you stop and think about it, King Louis XIV lived to be a ripe old age, and he wore this diamond practically all the time. And it wasn't until his son and daughter-in-law got a hold of it that they were beheaded. And it's true, they were beheaded. I mean, history tells you Marie Antoinette, I didn't know King Louis XV was, but history tells you Marie Antoinette was beheaded. And one of the reasons was that the people just got sick and tired of their crap.
Well,
they were starving. The people were starving, and these two people were living in a castle, spending all the money and not
just that, but
care of their
they
subjects.
they didn't even care about their people. I mean, she was mouthy, she was a snob, really. If you read about her.
Yeah, she treated the subjects like they were so beneath her
dogs,
that she couldn't even look at them, or touch them or even speak to them. And even her handmaidens, she was cruel to them. It's no wonder this woman was beheaded.
Taken out. Well, she was a nutter anyway. You know what I'm saying?
She was. I think really both of them were a few cards shy of a deck. But
and that doesn't even count. I mean, as far as if there was a curse with the diamond, those two brought any curse that may have occurred for them. They brought it on themselves by their own
this
negative
was
actions,
something that they brought on themselves.
Right.
And then the diamond resurfaced in London in 1813. And it was bought by a jeweler in 1823, but I couldn't find out for the 10 years where this diamond was kept. There was really no record of it. And then some guy, a jeweler named Daniel Ellison, I believe, bought it, and he sold it to King George IV.
Right.
And on King George IV's death, the diamond was sold to pay off debts, because King George was another one that was a little extravagant. He was also a gambler. So, and when he died, there were a lot of debts.
I think.
that he had that from his
Yeah, but
rule.
the last person who had the diamond was a female, not a male. I think it was a female last one in the family, and then
Well,
they donated it to the
that's
museum. Not. I was
that's way
making a
down there.
comment, but I was making a comment for somebody in chat. But anyway, go on.
Um, where was I? King George.
Well, we'll just go there.
Okay, and then in 1839, it was bought by Henry Philip Hope, and this
The Hope
is the guy
family,
that, ever since this gentleman, it was referred to as the Hope Diamond. And the legend about it at this time was that the once rich Hope family went bankrupt because of the curse. And in reality, Henry Philip Hope was a wealthy banker who never married. This man owned 2 or 3 banks, and he sold them. And he was also a collector of gems. He was a collector of art. He was a collector of antiquities. And
that's a big word to say. Good for you for getting it out. I don't know if I would have got. I would probably stumbled on a little bit, but yeah, go on.
I almost stepped on that. But when he died, he was still a wealthy man. And he never married, so he left his estate to 3 nephews, but one nephew, he left the diamond to him. That was Henry Thomas Hope. And Henry Thomas Hope could not sell the diamond. Even though he had the diamond in his possession, according to the will, the family had say-so over what happened to the more valuable items in the estate. And
which is good. Well, that's kind of good, because then you're keeping the wealth within the family and not letting somebody,
So when he died in 1862, his widow kept it.
Right.
And she kept it until she died, and then she left it to a grandson, a Lord Francis Hope. Now, Lord Francis Hope was a gambler. He squandered the fortune left to him.
Gambling.
He just squandered it, and he tried to sell the Hope diamond several times, and the family would not allow it. And this was a guy that was drowning in debt.
Right.
He had none of the fortune left that was left to him. All he had was this diamond. And instead of selling it to the family, trading it to someone in the family for money, he wanted to sell it. And he had to go to court. They went to court 4 or 5 times, and the family just absolutely would not let him sell this diamond because of the conditions in Henry Philip Hope's will.
Yeah.
Well, finally, in I think it was 1901. He finally got permission from the courts to sell this diamond, so to pay off his gambling debts. And then after that, he lived in absolute poverty. But not the entire Hope family was in poverty. It was just this Lord Francis Hope. The rest of the Hope family had tremendous wealth because they didn't squander their money.
Right.
And also back then,
I guess if you're not raised to respect what you're growing up into, and you're not taught, you're gonna just spend it
well, also back then, if you were a lord or a baron or some nobility, appearances were very important. It didn't matter if you were dirt poor; you had to keep up appearances, and that was expensive.
Yeah, but but there's some children who come from, not all, but some who just are never taught to respect and learn.
Well, that's true, but that's
because they're having everything handed to them. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So he's just wasting all this stuff, while other ones,
And he had millions. I mean, and back then, millions was like, almost like $1 billion nowadays. It's just
They,
mind-boggling
yeah.
how much money this man just gambled away.
Well,
I mean, he just pissed away this money.
that's another thing. I mean, there's the curse of people, coming into money. All these people who won the lottery, to just throwing this out there, that everybody it seems who won the lottery, they were cursed. They had all this horrific things happen to them, and
you know what happens?
They just
to them?
can't handle that.
That's it. These are people that had nothing, that were barely getting by. They win millions in the lottery, and they go crazy because they've never had this much money before in their lives. So what do? They start spending, and they start getting things that they don't need.
Right. Who needs
foreign
20
automobiles?
cars?
Yeah, who needs 20 cars?
Or
who needs a 20-room house?
Right.
They just buy things. You know what? If I won a few $100 million from the lottery,
I didn't mean to start you off
I
on
would buy a nice
tangent,
3-bedroom house.
Right.
I would buy myself a brand new truck, and I would live like I was the poorest person in town.
A miser?
Anyway.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I got you off on a tangent.
It got me off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
I pushed your button. Ooh, watch out.
So
Don't
anyway.
talk about money with Spooky.
In 1901.
Shaker's penny jar at ya.
That's right. I got a penny jar too, by golly. Nobody gets in my penny jar.
Yeah, all right, go on. Sorry.
In 1901, a man named Simon Frankel bought it. And he was the one that brought it to America, and he sold it. Well, he sold it, and it changed hands several times in America. I mean, several people own this thing, and there is no record of any of them falling into bad luck. This was a diamond that was worth millions of dollars.
Right.
And
let alone, have you seen it in person? Because I've seen it at the Smithsonian, and
I haven't seen it in person.
It's amazing. They don't have a good case for it, that's for sure. But I'm just like, why would they leave it out in the open like this? There's really nobody standing there. But I guess you'd never really get out of the building alive if you cracked it open and ran with it. But still,
I am sure that there are a lot of security cameras and alarms.
It needs a better case. It's in this plastic cheap thing, and it's kind of fogged up and not very good, so you can't see the really good clarity, and they could put better lighting on it. And it is an amazing thing to see.
I bet it is.
But I don't think it's cursed.
An absolute amazing thing to see.
And if it's cursed, how come? Oh, go on.
Finally, in 1910, Pierre Cartier bought it. Now, anybody that knows anything should know who Pierre Cartier is. He is a world-famous jeweler. He is very famous for his extravagant jewelry. And we're not talking about cheap costume jewelry. We're talking about jewelry that the stars wear to borrow to wear to the Oscars or any other thing like that. Royalty buys his jewelry. This is a guy that made billions. And $1 billion was a lot of money for his time. And he showed it. He was in France and had the diamond with him, and he showed it to this wealthy American named Evelyn Walsh McLean.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't like it. She did not like this huge diamond. There was just something about it that she turned it down.
Well, because maybe she'd know she'd get robbed and jacked for it, probably.
No, she didn't like the way it looked. And what Pierre Cartier did,
he
reset it. No, he reset it. And matter of fact, the way it looks now is the way Pierre Cartier did it.
In this photo that we have up.
Well, he knew that once he reset it and redid this diamond and everything,
that was it.
He actually asked this Mrs. McLean to keep it for him for the weekend, because he knew that since he reset it and everything, she'd just fall in love with it, and she did, and she bought it. And this is the thing about Evelyn Walsh McLean. She made the statement that anything that was considered bad luck was always good luck for her. It was always a lucky charm. So Pierre Cartier grabbed a hold of this, and he started telling her about the Hope Diamond's dark past. So up
But he
until
did that to get her to keep it, wasn't it? Because he kind of played out the curse and stuff to
well,
get her to want to,
there was
add
nothing
to
about a
it.
curse on this diamond until Pierre Cartier said it.
Yeah, well,
They
and
believe that Pierre Cartier was the one that started the rumors or the
no,
stories about the curse of the Hope Diamond.
and what year was that when she bought it or got
It
it?
was all 18 or 1910.
Okay, because
There,
yeah, because after that, 1911 and 1910, that's when I started reading and seeing articles that were written by newspaper
yep.
people that were, and then they started, like I said, making up all these, and not some of them
No
a
such
lengthy
curse
list
was
of it.
mentioned or appeared in print.
Till like
Was not
1911.
mentioned by mouth, did not appear in print until the 20th century, and it's firmly believed that the curse was started by Pierre Cartier because he wanted to sell the diamond to Evelyn McLean, and she liked things that had a dark past that would bring that were considered bad luck. And she wore this diamond considerably or constantly. She wore it when she bathed. They had a hard
What?
time getting this
What?
off of her
Well, you know
neck
what?
when
I
she
guess
had
she didn't
goiter
want it. Yeah, she
surgery.
didn't want people to steal it, I suppose. I guess so. It
She
was
wore
going
it
with wherever she
constantly
went.
because she said it was her good luck piece because she believed it was cursed. And because she believed it was cursed, she
She
believed it
negated.
brought her
She believed that she
good
was
luck.
negating it because of her belief system, like we were talking about earlier. If you believe in a curse, you may create bad luck for yourself. So instead of
Power of suggestion.
yeah,
Well,
so
he
instead of
suggested it
thinking
was
negative,
cursed. She bought it.
she changed it into something positive and kept thinking it was positive. So therefore,
And she wore it constantly. She wore it when she bathed. She had to have goiter surgery, and they had to fight her to get it off of her. She wore
well,
it no matter what she did.
yeah.
Everyday stuff. She probably wore it washing the dishes if she washed the dishes.
I
Being
doubt
rich,
she
she probably
washed the
had people that
dishes. But yeah,
being rich, she had people that washed
but
them
would
for her.
you take that thing off? I'd be worried about somebody stealing that diamond. It's ginormous and huge, and I guess like we were talking about, you want to keep it in your sight. So let alone she believed that it would bring her good luck, but she probably also didn't want to take it off and have somebody snake it from her. Think about it.
Snake it from her. I never heard that before. Um, well, that could be part of it. That could very well be part of it.
I'm surprised you've never heard me say that before.
I've never heard that expression before.
Well, it's out there. I didn't make it up.
I know you didn't. But she, like I said, she wore it constantly. There's no telling why she wore it constantly. She could have thought it was her good luck charm. She could have thought she was negating the curse. She could have not wanted to put it away because she's afraid somebody would steal it from her. It's but this is the thing too. She wore the diamond all the time.
Right. We got that.
Hardly ever taking it off.
Right.
Because she considered it her good luck charm.
Right.
But she is the only one of record that had anything bad really happen to her besides Marie Antoinette. Her son.
Well, that lady brought her own
I know.
troubles.
But her son, Vincent, was killed in a horrible car wreck. Her daughter, at the age of 25, committed suicide. And her husband was declared insane and committed to a mental institution until his death in 1941.
But that doesn't really have anything to do with the diamond. I mean, they could have just been the way that they lived their lives,
That's true, but what I'm saying is that
since
the story of the curse,
right,
of the so-called curse, which I
right,
don't believe it was,
right,
all of these were contributed to the curse of the Hope Diamond because this woman never took it off. Even after all of this, I mean, that's a lot of tragedy for one woman to endure. And she still wore this thing constantly.
You'd be surprised. There's a lot of people out there that you would look at them and think this person has a cursed life because there's so many tragic things that happen to them. And most of the things that do happen to people, they kind of bring onto them yourself because your thought leads your actions and brings you to where you go. But there's people out there that don't try to do good, but they just, for whatever reason, have this cloud that hangs over them. And sometimes you're like, man, I can't believe you've gone through all this and you're still a positive person. So I do believe that there seems to be people cursed in the world as well, not just objects too. You know what I mean?
Well,
because
that may be true, but
there's people you can look up that curses through history, or people with cursed lives, and there'll be a lot of people that you can kind of read about, and you're just like, wow, like, this one guy.
but are they really curses? Is it just bad luck?
Well, isn't that kind of like what a curse is? Bad luck.
Yeah, I don't know.
You got, because you got voodoo, and voodoo that there's people down where Penny is, the bayou and stuff, that they believe in curses and pay people to curse people, just like the Native Americans believe in the skinwalker and the curses that he creates on people, So there's curses like all throughout history and all over in different nationalities and everything.
But don't you have to believe in these curses though for them to do any good? Don't you have to be kind of resigned to the fact, well, I'm cursed, nothing any good is ever going to come my way?
Now you sound like Eeyore from
so I might as
Winnie
well.
the Pooh. Yeah, you sound like that dude from Winnie the Pooh, that Eeyore, that donkey who was
Eeyore.
Yeah, the way that you're talking, but
yeah, don't you have to believe in it though, with for the curse to be any good? That's like voodoo. Somebody puts a voodoo curse on you. Don't you have to believe in it?
But I don't. Well, maybe if you don't even know that you have a curse. But you know what? Strange things do happen to people. I mean, I'm not saying that these curses are real, or not saying that they can't be real. We're just, this is like another conversation we usually always have anyway, and we're just throwing it on at a show.
Very true.
But there's always guys. You know what? There's always the possibility for anything, really. But I'm not inviting anybody to go and research and find out if this is factual, nor do I want someone to throw some on us or our viewers to see if it's true,
Oh, well, there's lots of people, there's millions of people out there that believe in curses, I mean, I'm superstitious.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
You have your routines.
Yeah, I have my little deals, that I'm superstitious about, and isn't a curse, kind of fall under superstition?
Well, that it is a superstition that, people believe in, some people believe in it and other people think it's poppycock, it's your belief system. Like, you like to get in your car and you kiss, the cross before you take off cruising.
I have a cross on a chain that hangs from my rearview mirror, and every time I get in my truck, I kiss that cross. I do that every single time. The first time I get in that truck for the day, that's what I do. I kiss that cross.
When we were like teenagers and cruising around, I don't even know where this came about, but it was way before us. We didn't create this up. It's just stuff that's been passed on. They used to say that when you're going to go over a railroad track, you need to lift your feet, even the driver, and you touch something metal, because if you don't, you're going to have bad luck.
Or when you go by a cemetery, you hold your breath.
Or through a tunnel. You're supposed to hold your breath. But I think some parent invented that up about the whole tunnel thing, so the kids would be quiet for a little bit in the car. And if the tunnel's long enough, maybe they'll pass out and go to sleep. But, as far as that one. But there's so many different superstitions and that kind of fall in with the whole, curses and, bad luck, good luck if you don't do this kind of thing. Or, step on a crack, you break your mother's back. Or, a black cat.
I don't believe that, because I step on a lot of cracks during the day. But, I don't walk under a ladder because I don't want anybody dropping paint or a hammer on me.
And every time you step on a crack, that's when you hear your mom screaming your name, right? Oh, spooky. And then you got black cat, you got the ladder, you got don't break in the mirror, you got 7-year bad luck.
But black cats are supposed to bring their owners good luck.
I don't know. Mine seems to be pretty bossy. It brings me a lot of good luck. Sometimes it brings me a lot of headaches.
Mine's a little jerk.
Well, you shouldn't have named it what you did, but there's curses and bad luck and good luck stuff throughout everything. So it's not just...
Well, like I said, her husband died in a mental institution in 1941. She died in 1947. And it wasn't until 2 years later it was sold to settle debts from her estate, and it was bought by Harry Winston, who donated it to the Smithsonian Institute.
Yep.
Because he believed he was a collector of gems, and he wanted this to be a focal point of a newly established gem
National
collection,
Museum, yeah,
and he was hoping that it would also inspire others to donate gems.
I must have been thinking that she was the last one, and then in her death, I thought that it went over to the museum, but I
No,
missed him. Yeah.
it
Well,
was
you
it was
can't. There's a
so
long line of people. You can't remember everything unless you write it down.
no, that's true, because like I said, this thing, according to what I read, has had about 25 owners. And then on November 10th, 1958, it arrived in a plain brown box by registered mail.
Yep.
And it's currently on display in the National Gem and Mineral Collection. But I can't imagine a diamond as valuable as this. And by the way, nothing happened to the mail carrier that delivered this,
Or anybody who passed
or
it along.
anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't imagine sending a diamond as valuable as this by registered mail.
But think about it. Then
It
people
seems
wouldn't
that they
be,
would have a
but,
private
but people,
personal carrier deliver it.
But, well, you know what? But maybe people wouldn't be auspicious of the package and think, okay, there's something great in here because of the way
There
it
was a crowd waiting for it. Everybody knew how it was coming.
Well, I can't tell you why the man did it. I was just, making something up to calm me down a little bit. I don't know why it came that way, but you know what? Maybe he just did it for the fun of it.
And people were waiting at the door of the Smithsonian. There was a crowd of people waiting for this package to arrive.
I'm curious. I wonder how many people who've gone and saw it like I did, and maybe some of those people believed in bad luck and curses and stuff, and maybe they felt like because they had seen it and something bad happened that day, they're like, oh, stinking Hope Diamond cursed me, I mean, I wonder how many people have gone through that, and maybe it's on the web, or because the museum hasn't burnt down, nothing's bad happened to the caretaker of it, and maybe
nothing happened to the mail carrier that delivered it,
right, or the last man that had it.
And I believe though that Pierre Cartier was the one that started about the rumor of the Hope Diamond to sell it to this wealthy woman.
He did. Because he kind of caught
all through the ages. There was nothing mentioned about the diamond being cursed.
No,
all through
it all
the
started
ages.
After, yeah.
This diamond was first bought way back in 1642. 1642. And all the people that have come in contact with it through all these centuries, nobody said anything about this diamond being cursed until Pierre Cartier tried to sell it to this, what did I say her name was? Evelyn McLean in 1910.
Right. Well, in 1911, like I said, that was one of the first things I started noticing, that there was newspaper clippings that were up on the internet that were, talking about, they had lengthy, detailed lists of, all these people who had it and the ill fortune that happened to it, and only a couple of them, like I said, when I looked at it, were real, actual people who did have it, but they didn't have bad luck. Yeah. But a bunch of the stuff that I was reading was like people just trying to sell newspapers and trying to, you know what I mean.
Well, I can imagine from what I read about this McLean woman.
Right.
Like I said, she liked things considered cursed because she believed things associated with bad luck always brought her good luck. I can imagine her sitting there with this thing around her neck saying, oh, did I show you my diamond? It's cursed, but it brings me good luck. It's my good luck charm. Well, that gets around my mouth. Oh, well, Evelyn McLean wears a cursed diamond around her neck constantly.
Well, but could you imagine what else was probably in her house? If she bought that because of the curse, could you imagine whatever else things she may have been collecting that were bizarre and odd because of that fascination and obsession that she had with cursed objects?
From what I read, she did have quite a collection, and some of the things were what they called a bit odd. But I don't think I would even go in this woman's house.
I would. I could just imagine what she had in there.
I don't know if I would want to go in there or not. I really
Well,
don't.
they also say that anybody who has any Nazi memorabilia seem to have bad luck too, because of
Well, think of all the energy, though, from World War II.
Right.
That's,
Well, What's that one thing
It's
in, what's that, before I forget this, but what's that thing in Hawaii? Because don't they always say, you go to this one spot and whatever, and they tell you not to take any rocks or anything from that sacred
that
area?
volcano, and it is a volcano of a goddess, and I
Some,
cannot remember the
yeah.
name of it, but
Yeah, I remember hearing that, like, when you're in school and
people
stuff.
and what people would do is they would take bottles of liquor and they would throw it in this volcano. I believe the volcano is dormant, and they would take rocks as souvenirs, and
Or something
even
else there, anything,
or
yeah.
something else. But even the park rangers say every single day they receive rocks that people had taken and are sending back to them to return to the volcano because of the bad luck. I cannot remember the name of that volcano. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Well, people probably can look it up. I mean, we have so many things going through our head just from the topic of what we're talking about tonight. But, the Hope Diamond wasn't like the only diamond that was claimed to be cursed. There's like,
But it's actually the most famous
one
most
of the
talked
most.
about because it
But the
was at
other
one
ones were
time.
talked about too.
Yeah, it's considered one of the biggest diamonds in the world, and it's also a rare color because, like I said,
Oh,
even
very,
nowadays
yeah.
you very seldom see blue diamonds. Matter of fact, if I was to see a blue diamond today, until I read about this,
It'd probably be fake.
I would think it was fake, whether it was fake or not. If because as far as I know, diamonds are white.
No, they have yellow and other, but they talk about there's like seven topped cursed diamonds, and the Hope Diamond's one of them. And they got the Regent Diamond from Nepal, and they got
Napoleon.
yeah, and they got, I'm trying to think, and they got the Star of Africa Diamond, and the Shah Diamond from India, and you got the oh, I can't think of the name.
Now, wasn't the Shaw diamond at one time, wasn't it really stolen from the Eye of an Idol? The Hope diamond, when Tavernier bought it, it was square,
Right.
kind of a square shape.
Yep. And then they
I
cut
now
it.
now I cannot believe that he stole this from the Eye of an Idol. Why would it be square? But that was just legend, and but like I said, we're talking about legend that
Well, when you
most likely
find
Pierre
diamonds
Cartier
and you
made up.
find gems and stones, they don't come out perfect. They come out in whatever way that they're formed in the earth. And
But the diamond was cut when Tavernier bought it, but it was cut to show size and not brilliance.
clarity and whatnot, yeah.
Right.
What
I mean, it
things are
wasn't
different
until
now.
Louis the 14th got a hold of it that he had it cut to show off its brilliance.
I would have never even touched that thing. I would have left it exactly the way it was. And it's full of,
But the Hope diamond through the centuries since what year did I say, 1642, has been cut twice.
right.
So, and I believe that it's 60 carats now. I can't remember, but it's still I know it's over 55. But
But you can look up, type in the word cursed diamonds or topped cursed diamonds, and you'll see a bunch of other stories and other beautiful diamonds in different colors and everything. From the Sancy diamond. Taylor, what was that actress?
Big Boy asked, he says, "Isn't this the same diamond featured in Titanic?"
I
Actually, the
don't
diamond featured
think
in
so.
Titanic is actually similar to the Hope Diamond,
But it wasn't
which,
the Hope Diamond one. It was
no, it
another one.
wasn't the Hope Diamond. It was called something else. But I caught the similarities because I had seen pictures of the Hope Diamond before. But
Elizabeth
I've never seen
Taylor.
it in
That's who it
person.
is. Elizabeth Taylor had the Taylor Burton diamond. And,
Yeah.
and they talk about that thing being cursed. But I think she brought her own bad luck with her and her poor
Well, the
choices.
thing about it is, Elizabeth Taylor was famous for her diamonds.
And her
Okay,
poor marriages.
Richard Burton bought her
Yeah.
a small fortune in diamonds,
Right.
and her and Richard Burton were married twice and divorced twice.
when they were
but they couldn't
forced to,
stay away from each
yeah,
other.
but when he first left her, he took that diamond with him. You know, he didn't leave it with her. He took it wherever he went, and then they came back together. But I mean, she wasn't just known for her diamonds. She was also known for all her short and many marriages.
She was known. Yeah, she was. I think she was married like 8 times.
She was like a
She was known
heartbreaker.
for. She was known for her violet eyes. You know, nobody has purple eyes.
Get out of here, cat. Yeah. Sorry, my
She
cat
was. You know, she was known for her marriages. She
and her movies, but yeah.
And her movies, but I can't see where she made that many movies, really. Richard Burton was. He was a stage actor. He was a movie star. You know, he was rich. He bought her big diamonds. He didn't buy her little bitty things.
But they said that one huge Tyler Burton diamond is supposedly cursed. But like I said, I don't think that one's cursed, because if you really look at it, I mean, they kind of brought their own ill will onto them because of poor choices.
They both drank.
Right,
they both
exactly.
Drank and they both fought.
And they cheated. They cheated. And
they cheated.
Right, and that's poor choice. But as far as that one goes, as far as the top cursed diamonds, I don't believe that that diamond is cursed. I mean, it was cursed because they owned it, maybe, but that's about it. You know.
That's about it. Because like I said, you know, out of her 8 marriages, 2 of them were to Richard Burton.
Right.
And
well, she did care about the men that she was married to.
Well, she did care about him. She did care about Richard Burton, you know. But the thing of it is, even after they divorced, they just couldn't stay away from each other. And then she turned around and stole Todd. I can't remember his first name from.
Well, that doesn't have to do with the cursed diamond about her stealing people. But I mentioning.
I think it was just the fact she was a drunk.
Well, not just. I just think they made poor life choices. Therefore, I don't believe that Tyler Burton diamond was cursed. But you're gonna find that when anybody Googles it up or looks for it on YouTube or whatever. And that's. But there are other, like the Sancy diamond. If you read a little bit about that and the people that had it, I mean that okay, they didn't have very much good luck, But is it cursed? I don't know. Can objects really be cursed? Can people really be cursed? Places? I mean, who knows? I mean, if you don't do this, will you have bad luck? Does voodoo work? I don't know. I'm not a big believer in all that.
I think a lot of it is power of suggestion. I think a lot of it is made up to make things appear more mysterious than they are. If I don't really believe in curses, but if I did, the only thing that I have ever came across, as far as reading about, I would have to say the James Dean car.
Yeah,
because,
totally.
I mean, there was just so much that happened
to
with that
so
car.
many people. Yeah. And just that poor high school student on a field trip, his parents signed this paperwork, like, hey, go ahead and have fun on your field trip. Oh, yay. And then he just happens to be the one walking by, and he don't even get to come home. He's in the hospital with a broken hip and can't play
comes home with a broken
football
hip.
Anymore. Or whatever.
I mean, people who have had parts of that car, something has happened to them, The guy that had the motor to that car, he died.
This dude had 2 tires and they blew out,
At the same time.
I know.
How often does that happen?
What about that poor trucker who flew out of the bed of his truck and the stinking car landed on him?
Right.
I mean, how is that? I mean, that's like 1 in a million. And then that building burning down. Come on, But
that garage burning down and it burnt to the ground, and every vehicle in that garage was destroyed except for that wreck.
Okay, I guess I kind of take about, because if you do look at the Kennedys family lineage and all those people who died really young, that's kind of odd. Is it a curse? I don't know, but that's something that I would be kind of like, that is a little, bad, because there's tons of them.
There has been a lot of tragedy strike the Kennedy family. That is true. But some of them are choices that they made,
and some weren't.
Some
weren't.
Some were choices that other people made
for them. Yeah.
Because of choices. Joe Kennedy, he was a womanizer.
Oh,
he made a deal with the gangsters to get his son elected president.
Yeah.
It.
This goes into our JFK stuff, but we'll save that for another show part. But I'm just saying, if you had to say, okay, that family did have, some shoddy deals. Maybe not all of it was by choice, though, if you kind of look
Yeah.
at it, you know.
Well, that's like the Romanov family, you know.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. That's a
um,
good thing to read about. Anybody listening, go read about
the
those guys.
the
That's good
youngest
stuff.
son in the Romanov family was a hemophiliac, and what that is that he did not have the needed things in his blood to make it clot. So when he got a cut or something, he actually was in danger of bleeding to death.
And that's when you take a little cayenne
And
pepper and
this
stop it.
monk, Rasputin,
Right.
he lived
That
with
guy's
this
a jerk.
family. The father wasn't too crazy about him, but the mother really believed in him because she felt that he had magical powers. Let me tell you
He,
something about
yeah.
Rasputin.
He ran that
This
family for a muck.
He ran that family,
Yep.
and when they finally
Had enough
threw
of
him
him.
out,
Yeah.
he cursed them.
But
But
they,
let me tell you something about Rasputin. When they went to kill this man,
right.
they they shot him, they stabbed him, they poisoned him. This man just would not die. They finally ended up throwing him in a river in the middle of winter that had ice over it and drowning him. Because Rasputin just would not die. He was a monk, but he was evil. He got in with the Romanov family, and he just all of a
Oh,
sudden,
he
he was
got power.
somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he manipulated them. I mean, if nobody knows about these people or knows about this stories, you should go search it up on Google because
And
it's
part of the
extremely
reason the Romanov
fascinating.
family was executed, part of it was
Because of
not the
him.
whole thing, but
Well,
part
yeah.
of it was because of Rasputin.
Right. He was a totally twisted man.
And he and an
Let
entire
alone having him in his house, he
family
is the
was
curse.
executed,
Right.
and nobody knew where their bodies were buried.
Did they ever find the bodies? I can't remember.
A few years ago, somebody went
And
to
oh,
the
that's right.
place,
Discovered some, found him. Yeah, that's right.
found some of the bodies,
Like I
you
said,
know. And then there was this woman that popped up that said that she was Her Royal Highness Anastasia,
oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and it just that I
We
tell
should
you
do a
what,
show on them. You know what?
if
We
you,
should do a show on these
I
guys
know
at
we
some
should.
point because
If you
this is
read
good
about the
stuff.
Romanov family, this is so interesting.
Oh, for sure. They've had,
So interesting.
what do they call them? Documentaries and a lot of stuff done on these people. But yeah, this is totally good stuff to get into and read if you're into, mysteries and curses and all these different stuff. I mean, this is a really good thing to kind of read in, but if anybody's, cursed, it was that man, he was bad luck for
I don't
anybody who
think
came in contact
I
with him 'cause
think
he was
I
just
think he was
evil.
bad luck because he was evil. Because
Right.
I want to tell you, evil will do you
Destroy.
harm.
It'll destroy
it will
everybody until it destroys itself.
That's
Literally.
right. And if a person is evil, they're going to destroy everybody around them because they
Or try to, anyway.
or try to anyway. And Rasputin, when this family finally ejected him from their household, he cursed them, and
And not
he
even a year
cursed them
later,
to
he
be
died.
dead in a year.
And
Within a year, they
and
were all
they
executed.
were all
Matter of fact, it was
dead.
within months.
Right.
They were all executed. Um, it the man was just evil, and evil went with him. No matter what, who he come in contact with, what he did, evil just followed him.
Right. So, like a rundown of the things that we talked about, like I said, I think that the car, to me, does hold a curse. As far as the diamonds that we talked about, I don't think the Hope Diamond was cursed. I think it was a
I
big
don't think King
mythology.
Tut's was either.
Oh, me either. I think that was made up, one, to keep the media back enough, and to stop would-be thieves and grave robbers.
And grave robbers.
The movie curses that we talked about, The Omen, The Exorcist, The Poltergeist,
Now, they had some strange things
Yeah,
happen on those
definitely.
movies. I mean,
A lot of
it's like
deaths.
The Omen Curse. That movie was surrounded by death and suicide. The Exorcist, they had all kinds of production problems. It's really amazing they even got that movie made
I think that
because of the
was all
production
I
problems
think
they
there
had
was a
with
lot
it.
of, you could talk. I think there's some of the people that you can still talk to, the actors and people that are still around, that they even, I'm sure it's on YouTube, they have things where they're talking about it, that they believe that it was a cursed and possessed film. There's how all these people were dying from it, and the weird it was doomed from day one. They had issues the whole entire film, you know?
Yeah. And like the 27 Club, I think that was just bad choices that those people made. You know,
That's
Janis
poor
Joplin
person. You know,
died of
they
an
go from
overdose.
right.
Most of those people,
They probably
died of
couldn't handle the
overdoses.
fame. You know, most of the people that did die, I mean, they were already depressed people. They were already on drugs or doing drugs, you know, and then when you hit a certain part of being famous, you know, you're going to be subjected to a whole world that you're not even used to, and nobody says no to you, and everybody's shoving things in your face and down your throat, you know. So
Yeah.
to me, it's just poor personal choices
And back
and weak
then,
will.
it was like when they were doing concerts. You did a concert one night in Texas. The next night, you might be in Florida. The next night, you might be out in California. The
Oh, what
it,
about that? What about
the
those singers that died in that airplane crash? They kind of talked about that. Those guys kind of had like a little curse on them. Remember, because the bus and was breaking down and uh,
Oh, you talking about Buddy Holly and them?
yeah,
Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big
yeah,
Bopper.
right. They kind of say they had a little curse on them.
They flew in bad weather.
I know that, but they had bus issues after bus issue and
Well, they had bus issues.
sick health, you know, issues with health and other
The heater
stuff.
went out in the bus.
I didn't say that I believe they're cursed. I'm just saying that that's out there. People say and believe that they were cursed. You know.
Well, that's true. They do.
Uh,
They do.
you know, and the sporting events where people like the Bambinos and stuff like that. I mean, people really do believe that the Boston Red Sox
Yeah,
are.
but let's face it. Back then, wasn't Babe Ruth the best player on the Boston Red Sox?
I don't know. I'm not a sports.
And then he went to
fan,
the New York Yankees. He's traded to the New York Yankees. Boston Red Sox probably.
But ever since,
I'm not saying.
but
I'm not
all the
saying
way
this
since
is what
then,
happened,
all the
but
way
they
up
probably
to,
lost
but
their
all,
best player.
but back then, I swear people were saying all the way up to this date, they still have that curse that they
Yeah.
should have never traded him, that they cursed them, you know. And maybe it's people's belief system that they're putting on it, and maybe the players believe it, so they're making themselves had a bad game.
Daniel Crazy Guy just said it's Pele in Hawaii, and that's the truth. It was Pele. I couldn't get that out. That volcano.
Oh, with the Hawaii thing. Well, there's
Yeah.
also that place that was it in Australia, that huge mountain type thing. It's sacred, and a lot of people take rocks from there too, and then they end up shipping them back because they have horribly bad luck as well. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of different places, in objects and.
Well, the volcano in Hawaii is supposed to be the goddess Pele.
Mhm.
And you don't steal from Pele. Evidently, people go there and they have, like bottles of whiskey or whatever, and they throw it into the volcano, and that's their offering to Pele. But
Well, we're running out of time though, so.
oh yes,
We
we
should
are.
let people know what we're going to do next week.
Next week we're going to talk about attachments. We're going to talk about attachments to inanimate objects, furniture, people. Do you believe in them? Can it really happen? Can an inanimate object have an attachment to it?
Can things be possessed? Objects?
Can things be possessed other than people? We want to thank everybody that came in tonight, and we want to thank our mods, Richard, Crazy Guy, Big Boy, and we hope that everyone has a great week, and we hope that you join us next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yep, and share us with your friends on Facebook. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.